Hey, it's Dwight.
Hey, it's John.
And welcome to Live from Sheboygan. We got a special guest today. His name is Stuart O'Neill, and I'm just going to read a little bit about him if you would care to know about him. Stuart is a real estate executive and a creative person, and he lives in, I guess, I'm hoping I'm going to pronounce this right, Rancho Santa Margarita. Almost sounds like a place that Jimmy Buffett would live. Stuart is a native Californian. He's from California, and he grew up there, and he's got an interesting perspective because he's native. He knows how California has changed. Plus, he's lived both in Arizona and in New Mexico. So, Stuart, would like to welcome you to the program and just say hello to you.
Thank you very much, and if I can do an add-on, see, it's California, Arizona, New Mexico, Massachusetts, Hawaii, 2 different places in California, Mexico, briefly. But anyway, yeah, I scout around.
Well, I thought what we'd do is just find out a little bit about Stuart and ask him about California. Now, Stuart, you lived in California your whole life, and you were telling me in a pre-interview phone call that California is shifting. Can you describe that shift a little bit? Describe it both in terms of population, the age, maybe some of the politics without naming any names, and maybe some of the culture. Right. Why don't you go ahead and tell us about that?
Deep, awfully deep subject. I'd say the thing that bounces out the most from me is the increasing density of Southern California, the increased density of Southern California, and the age differences that have become actually more dramatic in the last few years than they were before. And California is divided into at least 2 zones, actually probably 4. But there's Eastern California, I mean, and they are divided by Highway 99 and with State Highway. And East-West, okay, now very big political differences, cultural differences there. And then there's North-South. North-South even has different real estate laws, different real estate practices, yeah. The practices for Southern California are, I won't say substantially, but they're a little bit different. The practices for Northern California are different than they are for Southern California.
Now, you live about 50 miles out of L.A. In what used to be a rural area of a town of about 45,000 people, you told me. My question is that do you ever, I mean, are LA people heading your way? Are you guys growing?
Oh yeah. I mean, the town that I'm in, when you say 45,000, was planned to be 45,000. It wasn't planned to be 39,999. It was planned to be 40,000. It was one of the, I guess we took the world and planned communities back in '99 or something like that, because every bush in this community was pre-planned. So we've got a structure of those communities here, all built on the same ranch, all developed by the same people. So that's one thing. But coming south out of Los Angeles, yeah, it's an invasion. If you think we're expensive, go up to LA. Actually, no, we're more expensive in LA. But
give us a price of a typical 3-bedroom house with a 2-car garage. Of course, you probably don't need a garage in California. Carports, but give us a contrast between LA and maybe where you're at.
Los Angeles, I'm not 100% certain. I would say outside the ghetto areas, 400,000 and up. In the ghetto areas, 350,000 and up. In other words, there isn't a big. I mean, there's huge difference when you get into the upper end areas. I mean, I can take you to areas that are not famous that will cost $800,000 for that 3-bedroom house you mentioned.
Well, how about your area?
Right here, we've come down from the last recession. We were probably, the other house that I used to have was probably at 750, 800,000. It's probably at, I don't know for sure, but my guess would be 550 now, and that was a 4-bedroom, 3-bath with a three-car garage.
Now, you told me that the people down there in that area would re-elect Ronald Reagan. You had some reasons for it. Why don't you give me some insight into that?
First of all, Orange County, where I live, was the home of the John Birch Society, if you remember those good old boys who just loved everybody. And it's extremely conservative area, very military at one time. It's softening a little bit, but I think if Ronald Reagan were himself, because it was his, in my opinion, his personality that got him elected anything.
Sure.
Okay. He was an accomplished writer and never given any credit for it. I'm not a fan. I just like the guy's personality. I like the way he handled himself. Yeah. And I think that would be one of the big reasons. But I mean, Orange County consistently votes
conservative.
Conservatives, yeah.
I was going to ask you. You said that you are a creative person that helps people reach their dreams. When you put that on your About page on Google+, what did you have in mind?
Trying to fill a space. Really
honest answer.
I was trying to figure, okay, what do I do next, man? But
well,
no, that
help
is
me and John. I mean, John and I are trying to launch our YouTube channel, and we don't know anything about marketing. We're just really a couple of old guys. How would you help us get down that road to get our California dream?
I would probably, I'm sorry, I look up a lot when I'm thinking. I just go out there into the universe.
Go ahead.
I do the same thing.
We'll go with you.
Good. Pluto's a nice place. I guess I would first make sure that you had the right team, if you could afford a team, at the least the right memberships. In other words, some people here specifically on Google+, that are extraordinarily, that are, in my opinion, well versed in that exact field. And so most of them have their own communities. They have their own, what's known today as a continuity community, what was known before as a membership community. And I would encourage you to get on board with them, read up as much as humanly possible, and then there's plenty of communities about YouTube here on Google+. For anyone who's watching this on YouTube, Google+ has now got thousands of what they call communities, and you just go in and join. And then you've got anywhere from 50 to 50,000 people in there that are interested in the same topic. And I'm not exaggerating. I mean, it could be 50 or it could be 50,000. So the authorship community we have here is 19,000 and change now.
So you think Google Plus is going to replace Facebook for adults? I mean, Facebook will be for children?
Facebook's where you go to check in with your grandma.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay.
No, I actually think there's a very important place for both of them. One has more of a social aspect to it. The other one has a social aspect combined with sheer brilliance. There was a post this morning by David Amerland. He calls his Sunday Post. And it was very interesting and brought out probably 30 or 40 of the most intelligent commenters I've seen.
Now, those people that are on Sunday Post, what's going on with the Google Plus generation in church? What's your take on this? Why are they dropping out? I
don't get. Okay, I have to think. I have to go backwards and restructure your
Go ahead and look up
question.
at Pluto if you want to.
No, I'm just trying to restructure the way you asked the question. There is no Google Plus generation. There are 600 million of us that have signed in of every conceivable age, from Daria Musk, who's in her early 20s, now has 3 million people circled her, to me, who ain't young, and the guys are a lot less young than I am. So I would say societally, if you wanted to ask me that question about society, I would say that there are a lot of people who grew up in homes that were highly churched, to use a current term, that were highly churched, and either they stuck with that or they found a different way of managing the same part of their life, or they found a way of managing some part of their life without a church.
How about you, Stuart? How have you managed that part of your life? What's your strategy?
I hug horses a lot. I'm not a churchgoer anymore. Never was, really. Not too much. When I was growing up, my folks are Irish. I mean, O'Neill, you don't get much more Irish than that. So we attended church. My father wanted to make sure that I had some grounding in the church. And, I was of the age in the 60s where everything was being explored. Everything.
Yeah, and challenged.
So I went from one church to what's Zen all about, to what's Buddhism, and what are these other guys doing over here rocking and rolling this church? Let's go see what that's all about. And so I was on a voyage of my own discovery, and I think many people were.
So, Stuart, do you pray?
In my own sense of the term, yes.
Okay.
I don't agree that many of these terms are common. I think one of the big problems in the political world and the societal world today is dramatic and vicious divisions between simply, you could take, I know, well, you guys know the Purpose-Driven Life, Rick Warren's book, right? Yeah. Okay, well, I know Rick. I was going to his church when he was in a high school gymnasium over here before he got to, I don't know, 25,000 parishioners or something now. Yeah, and I stopped going a long time ago, but it was after he built his church, and I did help donate money to build his church and buy the land. And he's one of the most brilliant salesmen I've ever met in my life. I mean, the guy could take a brick and sell it to you, but he is even better at speaking to the individual in the parish, in the room. So, okay, let's take him for example. I'm going somewhere with this. Let's take him for an example. I have a friend. He owns the office I'm in right now, where I've got my equipment, and I shouldn't even personalize it that much. But anyway, I already did it. A friend of his was over and was blathering on about how good he was doing and this and that, and talking about a specific church and a specific congregation. And the guy was puzzling the heck out of me, and we all left at the same time. And as he went downstairs, I said, "Excuse me," and he says, "What?" I says, "I don't know anything about your church. I'm not part of any church, but I was born a Catholic. You agree that Catholics are Christians, don't you?"
What do you say?
No way.
No.
And that is not unusual anymore. That is what I mean about societal divide. Even within a church, a population that is churched. So if you've got that, and you ask me if I'm Christian, My standard response today is, I don't know what your definition is. I know what my definition is, and frankly, let's have a drink.
You know, we're just about out of time here. I'd like to.
Oh, I'm sorry. I
It's
went
all right.
on too long.
I think we really got something from you today. We appreciate it. Can you just tell me what's the difference between the people from Arizona and the people from California? That'll be our final question today, because you've lived in both places. Go ahead, Stuart.
Arizona politically is extraordinarily more conservative than in most respects. In most parts, there are parts that they're not. It's a beautiful state with a very different, and to some degree, a very different culture. In other degrees, very similar. But it's a beautiful state. If you've never been there, by all means, go to the Grand Canyon. Want a religious experience? Go to the Grand Canyon. Be sitting out on the rim with a cup of coffee when the sun comes up in the morning, and then you'll know there's something there.
All right, Stuart. We appreciate your time
Thank
today.
you so much, Stuart.
And we hope to get to talk to you again sometime. Thank you for spending time with us this afternoon.
Anytime, gentlemen, anytime.
All right, appreciate you, Stuart.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you, Stuart.
Okay, we're out.
Well, that was Stuart O'Neill. What'd you think, John?
Yeah, a very interesting guy. He's been around. He's seen a lot of different things. It's interesting how he was telling us about kind of like the semi-political makeup.
I was kind of surprised. You know, everything I've ever heard about California, I always think of liberal San Francisco and Jerry Brown and things like that.
But I guess that's why we're doing a program like this, to find out what's really going on.
He says that it's been conservative down there in Orange County, and he gave some of the reasons. It's interesting also how he divided California between kind of a north and a south.
Yeah.
Kind of like the Mason-Dixon line.
Exactly.
And then finally, he seems to me to be typical of Americans today that you know, he's a Christian, but he's not attending a church, or he's not involved in a church body. He's gone from Catholic to Southern Baptist, which is Rick Warren. Mm-hmm. Would you say that that's typical of a lot of people that came out of the 60s and 70s? I mean,
I think it could be. I'm a product of that age.
Well, you were a Catholic for a while.
Yeah, I was Catholic, and I also, graduated from high school back in the late 60s, and checking my age here. But I can see how there was a period of time where we were looking for answers, and we were looking in a lot of different areas, and some of the areas, I would say, weren't the best areas to be looking at.
Right.
And
well, but
it's a continual search.
He certainly, like Rick Warren, his ability to communicate or sell. I mean, he's being persuasive. But apparently that's not enough to keep somebody going to a specific church, Rick Warren. So there's probably a reason why he's not engaged. But, it seems to me that Stuart is pretty typical of a lot of people today that are sort of don't like this combat that goes on between Christian denominations.
Yes.
So if you're not a Christian if you're a Catholic, you're not a Christian if you're a Baptist, you're not a Christian if you're a Mormon or you're a Pentecostal, or what do you think of that? I thought that was an insightful comment.
Exactly. It's sad.
So why are these denominations on jihad?
That's a good question, because you have to wear short hair versus long hair. You got to wear a suit or a sport coat.
No, you got to have a tie on.
You got a tie, and
you got to fit into the mold, the standard.
Well, I think it was interesting where Stuart was saying that he was engaged in that, and then he became disengaged. I should have asked a follow-up question. Who is he engaged with? The people that they were engaged with in the church.
Yeah.
Was that apparently wasn't either deep enough or strong enough to maintain that. And I've used this term sometimes. Christians bayonet their own wounded. Somebody's hurting for whatever reason. Not putting people down. It's just sad. You're laying there, run over by a Mack truck, and no one's really picking you up. And
the wounded warriors.
Yeah.
Well, that's all we got for today, folks. We hope you enjoyed Stuart, and we do appreciate him coming on the program. California Dreamin'.